turning defense into offense. What's up there, pickleball nerds? I'm Derric Haynie, your coach for today. Today we're going to be reviewing one simple point that I played with a few 4-5 to 5-0 friends. We're going to break down the transition zone resets, the quality of them, and the point and strategy of getting to the net to take advantage of essentially being higher than the net and being able to apply power to the ball, as well as the opposite of that, which is keeping the ball lower than the net so that you are able to receive a slower ball. So let's watch this point go through, and then we'll come back in and break it down. All right, so starting with me serving, here we go. Josh, who's a solid 4-5 to 5-0 player. Chris here with the attacks is probably a little bit above 5-0 with his DUPR rating. You can see Destined on the left, who didn't get the ball this time, so we won't talk too much about him. So that's the point there. You can see, let's watch it one more time through. It's a good wide dink. My ball is too high there. Ball is too high. Decent reset. Good pressure by him. Then he has to step back for that one, and I'm able to slide in and attack off of a overly aggressive backhand. You could call it a speed up, but he's just really trying to apply pressure to prevent me from the transition zone. So let's go ahead and now watch it, but a little bit slower as we break it down. So serve and return, I don't think there's anything unusual here. Of course, approaching after the return. I think there's two spots that I can drop this ball. So obviously I'm being pushed wide, which I think is important. So I'm not in the middle here, which means, and the ball is relatively low and off, which means I should not go for a drive. Take a look right here. The ball is decently high, but with position and leaving this gap open, if I drive the ball here, it's going to come back there. My partner is forward, so I would have to run all the way over here to get that drive. Now, if I drive the ball cross court, there could be an angle here as Josh is a little bit late approaching, but I know that by the time the ball reaches that spot, he'll have made a nice firm stance here, and he has pretty good defense, so he will act like a wall and can push it here down or cross court, again, causing this angle that we don't want there, right? So there are a lot of challenges with the drive when we're being pushed wide in this spot, and I'm a little bit off balance, so I elect to drop. Now, the drop locations, definitely this is a great spot right here because Josh will be a little slow to get there and the ball will roll, probably pushing him back. So that's probably the primary drop location that I would usually go for. It's actually my favorite spot to drop the ball, which is cross court there when you're receiving this as the right side player. But down the line is also pretty good because Chris is hogging the middle. So he's giving me a little bit of a spot down in this corner where I can where I can make a little bit more room for error and still have a playable ball come back to me. Also, because of my angle, Chris isn't going to have a ton of attack angles from that location, whereas Josh over here would be able to go cross court at me, in between us, down the line at Destined, and he even choosing between his feet. So a lot more options for Josh, I feel, than Chris. But this is maybe a little over analysis on the drop. But these are my general thoughts when I'm going through where to put the ball. And in this case, they're both really, really strong at the net, so I'm not going to be able to pick on a weaker player. So obviously my first drop is too high. You can see here, I do have the right arc. You can see usually you want it to be about 6 feet on your kitchen line and then coming down over the net. So it's got a reasonable arc to it, but you can see that it just lands a little too high as we are at least 12, 18 inches over the kitchen line here. And so he's now, because he's not standing over here, he's got a lean, which is actually going to affect the amount of power he's able to put on this ball, which is good for me. And that is one of the reasons I dropped in that location. It actually makes the next ball recoverable. In some situations, a drop this bad could be point over right away. Sorry, I kind of skipped ahead. So now he hits a straight on attack. And again, you can see he can't really angle that. It'd be pretty tough to angle that at Destined's feet. And he can't put that much power on, especially because the way he's leaning, which is good. That means that I can play back off of this ball, and we're in sort of an isolated, you could even think of it as a skinny singles one-on-one here. Of course, I could choose a drop across court afterwards, but I'm still seeing this open opportunity on my right that I want to take advantage of. So I'm able to dig, not the best looking dig. I could be a little bit more on my toes. And you can see how I'm crossing my body. I should be turning my legs a little bit more to the left to prepare for this and get my body a little more centered. I'm a little bit further back over my butt, which is something that I do. And I'm working on in my game, but you can see that I am able to get the paddle there. And you can just take a look at how the reset goes. Very soft touch. So I should be slightly more to the right with more of a fixed arm. Absolutely. So you can dock me on points for form. No, but notice no real swing. There is just a very gentle tap on that ball to just let his power and a little tap bring it back over the net. Now, again, look at the arc. You can see our arc path is from about here. It's a little higher than that, I think. So just a little bit higher than that. Let's do it again here, which is slightly above, right? That looks about right. Yeah. So still above the net. But look at how he has to, it's going at his body, which causes him to slide back slightly. He's got good power, but again, another ball in which Chris was not able to. He's a beast at the net, so he will literally, punish this. But like if it was in his sweet spot, slightly to the right, it might have been point over. But because we are able to go body and he has to reposition slightly, he does not get enough power on it. Then he attacks again. I'm able to block out of the air with a decent reset here. Actually, this is my best reset of all of them. You can see the flight path is actually perfect and much lower. This is exactly the textbook you want. Coming in and dropping right in this pressure zone right here. Preparing for the next shot. You can see how he's taking a step back, which is great. So that ball will come in and he'll take it on the fly. This was such a good drop that I know that I can approach. And you can see I'm going to take a couple steps forward after recognizing that I need to approach here. If I don't come forward, he will keep me back for infinity. So I have to really work 2 steps forward in order to get better position here. And it's important because this is the moment where things usually start to spiral for players. I've hit a good drop. If I run all the way to the net, he will be able to attack and it will be a tricky spot. But if I give myself if I'm able to come up just a little bit more, I know he can't put a ton of power on this shot, but he can put just enough to put pressure on me. Actually, to interrupt myself, what I would say is that if I were to rush all the way up to the net, I will be moving when he attacks me, and I'm likely to make an error just out of that movement, not being ready to take that ball on the fly. And so for that reason, I don't think you can just rush up to the net and catch your own self off guard when you know somebody can bring a ball that fast back to you. And if you look at this ball, you can see it comes back too fast for somebody that in motion to actually try and make a reasonable shot on me. Okay, so this is the game of cat and mouse that we're playing here, or maybe even tug of war, where he is able to apply pressure, but not any sort of winner or significant pressure. And therefore, I have to take the space that I've earned here, or I will end up conceding it and have to hit another perfect draw. So you can see I'm breaking down as he hits, which is good. It comes straight at my body. I have paddle in a low position because the ball really can only go low. If it goes any higher than my waist, it's going out. So relatively good. Again, not the perfect form. I'm not the type of person to show you form. I can show you strategy more than form, as you'll see in other videos. I pop it up a little high, so that is a less desirable arc. You can see how it but it was short. So it's a little bit more of that perfect rainbow, which is not ideal because that's going to have a higher bounce, which means he can take it off the bounce. But you'll notice where this ball is landing is out here, and he has to step really far back. Where are his eyes? His eyes are on the ball, and my eyes are on his positioning. So this means that I know I can move at least 2 steps forward and take the next ball. He should be thinking one of two things. I think he thought because of the arc, he's just going to play a really aggressive shot. But I think he should be thinking about going cross court at this point, even though his body's not positioned for it. So I would have positioned with this foot maybe a little more out this way, and maybe even taken one more side step in order to come out there and hit a cross court dink, kind of conceding the kitchen. Or he should short hop it to my backhand right about here and just kind of tap it over that way. And maybe we'll compete on the ball Destined deny. You can see Destined here has great stance, by the way, even though he's not involved. He's facing the ball, and it really can only go at him that direction. And of course, it could roll over here, so he's ready to push off for that. And Josh is in fine stance, slightly facing Chris as well. All right, so hit play, and then you can see what Chris ends up doing is hoping that I've abandoned the line and hoping that that this will kind of get past me. You can see it's pretty ugly footwork on my part. I didn't push off. I'm kind of more leaning than pushing off. So he is kind of right that I didn't perfectly prepare for it, but the ball is so high that I'm able to just kind of give it a quick slap, and he's out of position, right? And generally, when you're speeding up from here, it's going to go middle because it can't go back down. It's harder to go back down the line, and the middle is kind of a wide open spot. Also, because he's standing that way, I'm going to favor the middle because there's kind of a little bit of a gap here. Only maybe a foot or two in between them right here. That's a little too much. So there could be an opportunity for Josh to have even stepped over here. But really, because Chris sped that up from back there, he's out of position. And so I want to drive the ball right down the middle, just going to make it tough for him. So he's just a little too high. I'm able to put pressure on that middle. We'll just play it out again. Attack, defense, attack, defense. Probably an ill-advised attack, counter. And while he had his paddle there to play another fast counter, he did not have really too much of an advantage. I might argue that he had a slight disadvantage. The only advantage he has is that I am slightly back. I'm like a foot and a half back. But look at him. He is too. And he's actually a little bit more off center than me. He's almost touching the line, and I am 3 feet in. So Destin and I have squeezed the middle because in men's pickleball, the sides have kind of become a little bit more irrelevant as the ball plays towards the middle. And he gets a little bit jammed up there and misses the shot. So what are your takeaways? The first thing I would say is resetting the ball in the transition zone is this constant battle of tug and war. You really have to be able to move forward when you hit a good drop, but not overextend and try and rush the net when your opponent can apply pressure to you. Be comfortable with 2, 3, 4, or 5 resets against 4, 5, and 5-0 players in order to get up to the kitchen line. The weaker your opponent, the less true that is, but you always want to be playing with the idea of tougher and tougher competition over time, so you can kind of prepare for moving up in the levels. On Chris's side, obviously we've all been there and overextended in this spot. Not a big deal, but he has to think about patience. So that is another thing here. Chris is actually a very patient person, so this is a fluke, I would say, in his game. Not a flaw, a fluke, not a flaw. But if you notice, players tend to bring their ego to the game, very common in men's doubles, want to be a banger and hit the ball too hard, then there are going to be situations where you can take advantage of them like this. Assume that the third or fourth drop, they're just going to overextend and attack, and you can counterattack. So have that in your mind going into each point so you can really prepare for how you want to stand and how fast you want to move forward. On my side, obviously the footwork and form could use a little bit of work, but the angles were relatively there. Not the cleanest drops of all, but I was able to exploit some of Chris's positioning in order to avoid detrimental failure on my side. I think we've all been there where you've hit a drop that looked really good. Somebody just slaps it back at you, and it's a clear winner. You couldn't even get to the next ball. This happens because they are in the perfect position. You've hit the ball exactly to what I call the kill zone, which is generally their forehand right at, it can be even slightly below the net in times, and they don't have to move for it. Able to push a complete amount of power onto you that way. So getting them slightly to have to move around will likely reduce the amount of power that ball comes back at you, making it easier to hit the next ball and get up to the kitchen line. In most cases, if he did not hit this ball higher than the next shot would probably be basically a dink, a one step back dink that would have put us into some kitchen gameplay. But because the ball was too high and it was in a reasonably good position, I can now move from defense into offense, counterattack the ball where Chris is not, forcing him to have to take that step over as quickly as possible, which is likely to cause an error. That's it for me. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy. Hit the like and subscribe button somewhere around here. And I look forward to seeing you in our next quick pickleball coaching session.